Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to you all here. Whether you have been to Nirvana or not, you're certainly back here. Yes, the subject today is a very important one. The word Nirvana is peace or cessation of the sorrow or any kind of mental or physical, mental sorrow or physical pain, any kind of distress. It's a kind of a most luminous, natural state that any consciousness can experience and fuse in infinity. And it comes with little attempt only if you knew how not to. We try too hard. Because this is the very cessation of conditioning of the mind in which we are oscillated, we are perpetuated. It is not as though you have to attain something you don't have, or you aren't not already, but rather it is undoing of the things that is distracting us, that peace is so much in our heart. So Nirvana is a state of a mind where there's a complete cessation of origin of suffering and the gross sufferings, any kind of physical pain or any kind of harm coming from outside or within, from humans or nature, or absence of any kind of troubles. Often it is said to be like the aim to reach to. So the Buddhist practitioners are said to be aiming to attain Nirvana. It says in the four seals of Dharma, which is the fourth one, is Nirvana is peace. And I don't think it has to be Buddhist to want peace. Everybody wants peace. Meaning that if they want peace, they probably haven't got it consciously now in their state of mind. So whatever it is the stress and strife and suffering and worries and the bad conscious mind, bad thoughts, improper thoughts, distractions, and all those negativities seizing our mind is prohibiting us to be and experience peace. When we talk about Nirvana, true Nirvana, we're talking about going into actually becoming one with the mind itself. Mind itself is not obscured by any afflictions, if the mind itself is allowed to be the bare minimum. It's that we have become so attached to the idea of I and mine, and because of that, all non-self or non-mind got in the way. And so the act of going to Nirvana is actually peeling off all the layers of non-peace that we have unconsciously acquired due to various sets of circumstances. So, in kind of linear fashion of peeling the onion, of course one has to learn to peel the first layer, and so on and so forth. So until you peel off all but no layer, then you would have peeled off. So that act of peeling off, that we do not have the gut to own as our own doing. We always externalize these peels as others doing. And so this combat, this incessant conflict that there's two, that self and other, it creates, so unconsciously makes the peels wrapped up by more threads. And even though each peel is quite easy to undo, but they are more wrapped up by wrappings of karma and obscurations. So when we're talking about becoming or knowing the peace, we're talking about how to be in that very state of lucid awareness. And this isn't a long journey. It is right before us. But if our mind do not get distracted by the reflections of things that are not important whatsoever. So simple, but yet so complicated by this fundamental error of clinging to the notion of I as if it was real, as if it was in threat. And it confuses itself with names, gender and color and creed and doings and failings and so on. It gets so caught up in the debris of all the unconsciousness. So, therefore, meditation is offered in Buddhism as a way to gather clarity of the mind. Not that the clarity is lacking, but clarity is in that obscurity. The creamed milk is the very milk by churning of which the butter will be manufactured. But one should know, one should not seek a non-creamy milk from elsewhere, and while abandoning the very creamy milk. So therefore, sitting, or being still, it could be done walking, it could be done doing everything, amidst of everything. Nirvana could be met at every corner. If one has that sense of completeness and adequacy in one's own mental kind of formulation, that is not wrapped by karma, obscurations, and dualistic wrong perceptions. So meditation is therefore try to have that stillness and clarity, so that you can hold the lamp without shaking the hands. And so because of our own instability and frailty by lack of experience in interfacing the very luminosity that is light, that could be called God or divine or love or peace. Nirvana is all the above. It is not a place. It is not a space we have to reach to. It is not a place we have to claim. It is not a new identity where we have to register. We simply have to decode or unblock these wrong concepts, concept of self and other duality of which have seized us and pushed and pulled us from one to the other. So in the traditional practice of aiming to reach nirvana, there are a number of stages. But all in all, those stages are just kind of milestones. But when we refer to nirvana itself, it's a cessation of those demarcations. Each of the demarcations may appear as an obstacle, but actually each of the demarcations are a sign of elimination of another layer. The layer was never part of the mind, but it has to disaggregate. In traditional concept of nirvana without remainder refers to a state of meditation. The great arhats, great saints, meditative saints, reach where there is no remainder of their physical aggregate to which they have any sense of ownership or clinging or attachment to, nor have any feelings, pleasant or unpleasant or neutral feelings towards which one has attachment or aversion to. So it's a cessation of feelings, cessation of aggregates, cessation of self, and its need to belong to the form aggregate or feeling aggregate, because cessation is delinking from the form, delinking the idea that I am form. There is actually no form that has been delinked. The idea that one was form is delinked. There isn't a form that is actually rejected as a garbage in the bin. In nirvana, there is no wastage. There is no actual duality. So delinking is actually the parting from the wrong views. That self is body, or self is gender, or self is perception and your opinions. You see this, you feel this, you have this view, you're seized by this. But when one disown, or when one knows that these perceptions of a color or form or idea or opinion, itself do not have independent existence. So when we use our luminosity, when our mind becomes registered greater clarity, then we let go in everyday let go. That's the perceived is not my perceived is not perception. The perception is not as the perceived is. The perceived is interdependent origination of many things beside the perceived itself. Perceived itself has no leg to stand on. It is propped up by many non-perceived. Many things that are not, it is supported or propped up. We don't know all the things that are propping up, that is making look like the top real. So when you disaggregate, or when you disassemble the things away, then you realize there isn't anything that you thought it existed in the perception. And then we are happy to not get attached to that perception. And so there's neither attachment to one perception nor aversion to another perception, let alone the perceived having any kind of static entity in itself. The perceived collapses with your perception. Each time you perceive, it's not a sign of is an entity in the perception, perceived, but it's actually the entity itself is conjured up by these obscurations. So when we say nirvana is a cessation, means a dismantlation, it's a dismantling of everything. Dismantling meaning that how everything is created, not because it is self-created, but it is dependently originated, not only from gross substance like matter, but also concepts that we give label and imputation. We impute something without us giving the label, no matter how solid-looking an object or thing is, it doesn't have any existence or entity that it's from its own side. So nirvana is in many ways, we have to do everyday nirvana. We have to de-link from our wrong views, or sometimes even right views. I got the right view type of thing, And right view and thinking it is the right view hurts us sometimes more than willing to swallow our pride that I have wrong view. Being able to see that right and wrong are only relative, and hence there isn't anything that is independently existing, right or wrong, let alone nirvana. Nirvana is only they say nirvana is perfect samsara. So we wanted to perfect the samsara. Because samsara is not quite perfect, is it? It is always falling short of the perfection. It's nearly there, but then it collapses. One prop gives up, and then everything collapses. But the whole idea of wanting to hold it as a one single entity, entity that itself is. That itself is some as a point of destination is the pointlessness. The nirvana is not a goal. It's rather the action of dismantling. Need to go. Therefore, to nirvana it seems, but you have to be back, even if you have reached. Say if you have reached, let's say nirvana is peace, nirvana is cessation, sorrow, nirvana is freedom from karma and afflictions, and nirvana is realization of emptiness, nirvana is peace and divine and infinite love, infinite compassion, all of that. But so what? Who will you practice loving infinite love when you reach nirvana? There must be a place where the mind, where mind escapes itself from these unruly sentient beings. We would like to believe that a nirvana is where non-unruly sentient beings are going to bother you anymore. You have the whole space just for yourself. There's this idea that nirvana is such a vast place. There's no unruly sentient being exists, or they have all become part of your floor. Or the whole thing. There isn't a single being who has any opinions. That will be good for, I don't know how long you can cope with it. Not for long. After a while you get bored with that. Oh gosh, this is what I've come for. So where's your infinite love and compassion and forgiveness and understanding has come to use? Not in nirvana, obviously, because there's no one else who will be soliciting that, who will be needing of your understanding of love and compassion. So hence the nirvana, to nirvana and back, from nirvana, his idea is that when you meditate or when you practice awareness, mindfulness, lucidity of your mind, and naturally removes the obscurations, because obscuration, by definitions, are absence of awareness. When you become aware, the obscuration become obvious that they are not part of they are not part of what you have in mind. And of course, when your mind is fully aware, this cognizability, this mind's, I would say, luminosity, illumination. Because illumination or enlightenment means it just completely dispels the dark that was not part of light. And darkness is not dispelled. Darkness is not pushed outside the boundary of nirvana. I don't know where is such a kind of a tip that nirvana, outside nirvana. You don't throw away all the obscuration outside the tip of nirvana, and then you get in. Nirvana is where you glimpse this emptiness of self and feel almost, alas, beings not understanding the emptiness hold to the name and the idea of self and one's doings or one's non-doings and one's feelings being hurt or feelings not being fulfilled. One gets so caught up in these things, and then beings actually treat them to be real and truly existingly real. And then they get wrapped up as before. Then the obscurations, the wrong views and afflictions, and then the karma. Karma is reaction. Karma is the action that prompts you to take unconsciously, whether it's physically or verbally or mentally. Whatever one do usually is done under the sway of the obscurations. Under the sway of obscuration. And there is no awareness that it is the sway of obscuration. When you know it is under the sway of obscuration, you would restrain, won't you? That is the nirvana. That is the small nirvana. That ability to restrain your obscuration. And obscuration becomes part of the light. Obscuration isn't the kind of the debris that you have to throw away. Obscuration becomes like the fuel for the fire. Okay, so your reaction, your past mistakes or whatever, they becomes the fuel that inflames the light. And hence, it shows your way around more clearly, and therefore you become more. There are still obscurations, but frequency and duration and velocity, intensity of the obscurations are now hastened. You have slowed the pace of the frequency of the obscurations and their kind of bout. Their attack on you, their frequency on you, because you're able to intervene, you are able to transform the very unconsciousness into consciousness. If you know you are unconscious, it's not unconsciousness, it is consciousness. So that conscious state, therefore, have ability to maneuver our mind, and therefore to negotiate with the thoughts and feelings and perceptions not being independently real. However, fundamentally it appears convincingly real. The more anything appears real, that much more one has to cease clinging to it. If you have a nirvana in making. Because the more serious and intense you become, more tight and tense you become, as a result of that it becomes very dense and dark. And physically you feel tense. Emotionally you feel seized by it. Habitually you're bound and addicted to it. And consciously you are not able to tell all the above. So when we talk about to nirvana and back, is we could happen within a couple of minutes, as soon as you become conscious of the habits or wrong perception or judgment or anger or whichever the afflictions are dominating you, and that to cause the distress, to cause the distress and strife in your mind. Because often when we are not intending to go to Nirvana, we are homemaking. We're cooking those quite a lot, but thinking it is others doing that is making us do. So therefore, we feel completely justified to do what we're doing because we are forced by them, or him, or her, or whatever whatever it is, And so we are not conscious. We are not even knowing that we have to take some ownership of my own unconsciousness. Because it's only the unconsciousness that is the worst of all karma. The others are just the kind of others are just the byproduct of it. So I'm sure the point of this talk today is how to bring the wisdom of the Dharma, the ancient wisdom of Dharma, in discerning the reality in your everyday life, so that your reading, your study, your knowledge, your meditation actually have a skill to brighten your mind, to quickly kindle your awareness, to be in the light, to be in that state of luminosity. Now, luminosity has this very self-cognizability, and that self-cognizability meaning that the cognizer is the mind, the cognized is the mind. But it is not seeing something other than the mere luminosity, mere cognition of it. So mere cognition of it, self-realization that it is my thought. It is not what actually it is. So do I have to have this thought? Probably not. Can I chuck it away? Doesn't need chucking away. Probably doesn't need chucking away. All you have to know is you don't have to subscribe to it. So much of the time we get attached, as if we have to lose it, as if we lose something each time we unsubscribe. Because we think it's my doing, it's my job or my work. When we have this strong my and I, then of course it becomes too much cost to let go. But when the fundamental cause of all suffering is the misrecognition of the I with the non-I, and not even suspecting that I might itself is a wrong idea. So therefore, anything that is I's my, that is my idea or my view or my perception or my doing or my failing or if what people say it's your failing, it's your doing, it straight away pains, But if you have this awareness, as soon as somebody says it's your mistake, it's really, they're helping you to become aware. Usually we try to do all by ourselves, and here there's a lot of helpers here. Helpers telling you. So when you're into that peace state of nirvana, you recognize any criticism, anyone who's at you, actually increases your awareness to reclaim the luminosity. Because at least they're stopping you from going furthermore without realizing. But do we have this kind of mental or emotional capacity to see them doing that? If you are, you have reached nirvana from that point of view. And now you come back. By not realizing this, then all beings are reacting, overreacting, and how the suffering got escalated. And alas, I need to now practice this even more. So now your loving kindness and compassion is true loving kindness and compassion with the wisdom discerning emptiness of self. Previously, all kind of a dose of love or kindness or generosity we dispense to people or places or situations, they're very, very much sort of meanly calculated. In so doing, we are not abundantly sufficed. We don't have abundant supply to dispense them, because we have this me who is doing and to somebody else. There is this I and the other segregation. So now when you have reached, so to speak, when you have been to Nirvana and realize that beings are languishing in samsara because of not realizing emptiness of self, misapprehending the body as self, and from the layers of the skin down to the marrows, if they really were to scrutinize under the microscope, there isn't anything that is identical to the idea of I. Yet human beings usually do not put themselves on that kind of test. They just assume that it's them, it is their feeling that got hurt. They're pretty sure that what he did was deliberately to hurt my feeling. And so we are so fundamentalist in our view. So it sounds like very egotistical, doesn't it? So egotistical view, and because of that, most of the suffering, all the sufferings are created unconsciously by oneself. And on top of that, instead of owning this, then one blames and externalizes that to anyone near and dear. Without realizing how they too have their own share of the suffering quite since time immemorial, not just from yesterday. They have been in samsara, drowned in the samsara like this so long a time. And hence, you have to be back from Nirvana, because hardly anyone is out there who you can show that loving kindness in the Nirvana. But down here, everybody is crowded. It's your departure for a few days hasn't made much difference. But everybody is mostly deluded. So deluded people cannot help any more deluded people. So, of course, anyone who has reached a little bit of glimpse of Nirvana has to hurry up, come back, having trained for all that, just to leave and depart for your own safety. That would be highly not the objective of seeking Nirvana at all. So therefore, Nirvana with remainder, they call it Nirvana with remainder meaning still the ordinary physical aggregate or name or rebirth you have to have so that you can be of a service, or you have to function as a particular role to play. Basically, you have to help one being at a time. And if you reach the perfect nirvana, Mahaparinirvana, perfect nirvana, like that of a Samyak Sambuddha, perfect enlightened one, of course, it is also like back to nirvana and back, because perfect enlightened one is to nirvana and back for good. Because their role to remain in the world, as a Mahayana Buddhist point of view, they have to remain in a non-nirvanic state, that is in samsara, where beings are confused and beings have no access to this knowledge or meditation or awareness, let alone conduct. And so therefore, until such a meditative state of yielding this clarity is cultivated with a lot of discipline, one will not endure the actual, the inappropriate treatment by deluded sentient beings towards each other. The bodhisattvas are now completely armored, having come back for Nirvana, they wouldn't send you back unarmored. This time you are returning fully armored to the non-body, of course. Previously, you have this fragile body, which was quite easy, vulnerable, offendable by anything, from elements to people. But now you don't have any kind of identity that is aggregate. Yeah. But because of that, Bodhisattva, this is the one who's really able to go to Nirvana and back, is indeed Bodhisattva. They're called Bodhi, means enlightened ones. Sattva means beings. So courageous warriors who returns to this very volatile world, but have no fear of themselves getting hurt. Why? They realize they never will get hurt so long as they do not become slave to the ego. All hurt are caused by slavery to ego, and hence this having been banished, there would be no fear. So therefore they achieve what is called fearlessness. Fearlessness. But they still have to play the roles that very few are willing or daring to take. And hence they have to disseminate the message of Nirvana, that is of love, that is of the forgiveness, that is of the selflessness, that is of compassion through teaching, meditation, and all that. They have to create these auspicious circumstances that people are heedful to luminosity. And when people are paying heed to the need to interface luminosity, which is meditation really. Meditation is interfacing luminosity. The being who hasn't quite clearly yielded his luminosity has a need to interface. But of course, the one who is in that state of luminosity, state of luminosity, is never leaving Nirvana. You know, it looks like he went to Nirvana and be back, but he's always in Nirvana. You know, he's not losing the peace. He's not losing the tranquility. He's not losing his compassion. He's not losing his loving kindness. But yet he had to dispense and display things that may be attracting the opposite of peace. Maybe aggression from others. Maybe negativities of others. For whatever he or she faces, he is not fearful that is going to harm him. even his exposure to apparent harm is not harmable, cannot harm him. Remember, one who is in Nirvana is not harmable. When the Buddha reached the state of enlightenment under the Bodhi tree, when the Maras and demons hurled rocks and mountains and huge weapons, they did not land on his body because he had no body. His body was a body of light, and so to the eyes of others, it looks like his whole vicinity was covered in flowers and all magical display. None of those aggressive, very violent attacks had any harm whatsoever to the Buddha, but instead his holy body became majestically more brilliant than ever before, with 112 distinctive marks that people, by merely beholding it once, would get unimaginable blessings, and some with great realizations. So that is the actual Rupakaya, the form body of one who has not abide or disappeared in the emptiness of Dharma Dhatu, because that would be the Nirvana of cessation, so to speak. But he has, having gone to Nirvana, come back to the world in the relatively conventional form of a teacher, maybe he was much taller than anyone. The historical Shakyamuni Buddha is said to have distinctive physical features. But no matter what, because the Shakyamuni Buddha is fully enlightened Buddha, Samyak Sambuddha. Even those who are first Bhumi Bodhisattvas, or second Bhumi, third Bhumi, all the way to the 10th Bhumi, because each of the Bhumis, meaning stages, eliminates various levels of obscurations, and therefore their luminosity or their nirvanic qualities and abilities, power or intensity, and the duration and resilience with which they benefit and continue to benefit sentient being differs. So different gradations of different stages of realized bodhisattvas then operate as a soldier of peace, so to speak, in this world, so much so to facilitate sentient beings to acquire this knowledge of Dharma, the culture, the knowledge how to churn the creamy milk and not seek butter from elsewhere. Telling that this creamy milk itself is impregnated with butter. It just have to be conditioned so that all the creams roll up and the water separate. I'm sure our method of modern butter making have come a long way from traditional churning that the villagers used to do in the tent. We have developed a number of machines that actually quickly separated the cream from the milk. So it is actually the water-like kind of things that is obscuring the actual butterness of it. Yeah. So our karma and obscurations, our habits, and our sufferings that we have presently are the waters. We are completely we're swelling with the water of sufferings and karma. And until these waters separated, there is no more or less butter in the butter, or that was before in the cream. The butter isn't increasing. The amount of butter isn't increasing by churning. So therefore in the Heart Sutra says there's no increase. Means there is actually nothing. There isn't anything for us to become increase into enlightenment, or there isn't any affliction that has to be decreased. In the emptiness of self, there is nothing to decrease or increase. Its only thing is that this analogy of churning the creamy milk, and then, of course, the process churning the creamy milk is like going to Nirvana, of course, going to Nirvana. And then after you have churned the butter. And churn the butter, and so the water and the butter is separated. And now what are you going to do with the butter? Feed the sentient being, of course. You're not going to take the butter to Nirvana and put it there, up and there. There's nobody up there. You should also bring the water. Somebody might need that one too, Yeah, so I don't know why there's so urgency to go to heaven, Talking about going to heaven mustn't be Nirvana. Huh? It definitely, when Buddhists included, or religious tradition, they refer to heaven. They're only referring to as transient God realms. They're called heavens. They're not nirvanas. Nirvana is a cessation of the I, The cessation of I and you. Because to go to heaven, you have to book a seat. There is finite number of seats, I'm told. and Nirvana is not about finite. It's infinite. There's no place you can start here and finish here. Nirvana is infinite. That's what do we mean by Nirvana? Meaning the luminosity of the mind. Light. Can you say where the light starts? Can you light finish? Light is just infinite. Only it is walled in a room or a bottle. Then you can see, that's the light is only in this bottle. Yeah, because it's the wall of the bottle separate the light that is in the bottle and outside the bottle and the rest of the universe. So all this bottled up, this is bottles of ego to be shattered. That's what we're talking about. So Nirvana is cessation, meaning breaking up the bottles. Breaking up, smashing all the bottles of ego. And then, of course, meaning the misapprehended to self with the bottle of body or the color or creed or whatever it is that individuals suffer. Say, I have this suffering. I got this all about me. Even though you feel these things, maybe you feel particular personal problems, but as soon as you have this luminosity, no, you don't. You feel like saying, but there was something that stopped us from saying. and as a result of the problem has diminished as soon as in front of your naked eyes. Instantaneously. How long does the problem last? Until we have the clarity. Now, the clarity will clarify that our afflictions, our obscurations, our sufferings, because usually we are complaining sufferings. We're thinking our sufferings, and my suffering is real, and we don't think the suffering is impermanent. The suffering is badly conjured up by bad constituents of wrong, deluded thoughts. One doesn't think like that. One thinks, I shouldn't have suffering. That's full stop, That's it, We just don't want any suffering. That's it, we're not even interested how it came about. If you're keenly interested it came about, it's possible that you might then have it. But how willing is our attention available to look with such discerning, scientific, logical, rational, and penetrating mind? When you have a mental affair, even when they say even you have a physical pain, and as soon as you invoke this luminosity, physical pain, you usually say that I have pain, There's I have pain. Who's I and who's the pain? And where is the I that has the pain? And you say, where's the pain? The doctor said, where's the pain? And they say, somewhere over here, so specific location, It's not there. It's over here. This is I? No, this is not I. This is what I have. This is not I itself is not this. But we don't hesitate to say, I have pain. But the moment we distinguish the possessed and possessor, the pain and I, the pain body people have, pain and I, because we attach to the body as mine, then the pain naturally is created. Pain is actually created by attachment to it. If you didn't think it was your jacket that is left on the dropped on the street and now wet and now covered in mud, if you didn't know it was yours, you think, somebody left there. But as soon as you know it's yours, all of a sudden, a huge problem arises. You see? So that shows that it isn't the jacket. It isn't the jacket that is there who's the problem. Whose jacket is the problem? So that shows how suffering is conjured up by idea of mine. My jacket. Oh, my leg. Oh, my this. But as soon as we learn to let go, you can have it. I just left it there so anybody can take it. That's and then you decide to let the nature have it or let somebody else have it. So it doesn't matter what's happening. So that is Nirvana is that letting go. Is that cessation from clinging. whether it's thoughts or opinions, perceptions. Lots of our sufferings are opinions, or our perceptions, our views. We don't want to negotiate from this. You cross the line, they say. Who put the line? That's the problem. Your line is too far out. That's the problem. You know? So we are putting our egoistic line so far out that almost we are vulnerable to anything that is encroaching us. But if we break the boundary, between say you and somebody else, you're having an argument, where's the real problem, you know? If you just break the boundary of I and mine, it's just we have a common need to find happiness and allay sufferings. It is not so much who did who to what, but what is the common cause of misunderstanding, suffering that need allaying. As soon as we do that, it isn't about against them or for us. It is against this naivety and ignorance. So nirvana is light. Light is enlightening, shining the light, switching the light on so that the misunderstanding is clarified. It's non-clarification of the misunderstanding and creating more misunderstanding without knowing they are creates the karma and obscurations. And when the karma and obscurations are created, then they become illness, they become suffering, they become physical and mental distress. It becomes habituated physical pain, maybe a conditioning that will last long, or if not cured at all. And mentally also, one becomes so defeated by this mental conditioning. So then, a person who has very little access to experience nirvana has physically a lot of sufferings. Mental conditioning is also harder to decondition it. It just becomes so patterned. And so all these arduous practices that the teaching teaches us to do is actually not for the sake of attaining nirvana, for all this conditioning that we have to remedy, that isn't allowing us to discover that there is the butter in that very milk. So therefore, we call this intrinsic butter in us as a Buddha nature. Buddha nature is the certain omens are there. People whose Buddha nature is more active, has a lot of compassion, tolerance, forgiveness, and altruism, and all the associated wholesome mental and physical behaviors becomes. When you're in a good state, you straight away resort to these wholesome deeds to repair any sufferings, or to heal any sufferings as quickly as they were created. Because suffering itself is not created independently by one person. So therefore, the one who go to nirvana, backward nirvana, has the advantage to know sufferings are also not independently real. You know, but when most people who don't know this, they think they are entirely responsible for their suffering. They don't realize that even their suffering is dependently produced by multiple causes and conditions. Their part is there, but not. It is entirely by one's own doing. This is very important. Then you practice self-compassion. Then when we say go to nirvana, back is then you are now you're patching up with yourself first. You are courageous. You're not injurable now by other people's attacking you, because first you have to heal yourself. Go to nirvana, and back is that you are now practicing kindness to you. For previously hurting yourself with this egotistical mind, now having the advantage of not behaving in that way, in so doing, then you know even your alleged and perceived mistakes are humbly accepted, but not as independently existing things. wow, that's going to rescue you from self-belting. There is still a very sizable responsibility. I'm not saying there isn't, but there isn't this huge burden that we tend to push on ourselves. It's all your fault. It's either them or me. That kind of duality. That's not nirvana. that's just going within the vicious cycle of samsara. If there is a nirvana, there will be occasional relief of the sorrow. Not because others aren't harming you, but their harm is not vulnerable. You're not vulnerable to be harmed by their. Why? You're not giving the other hand to clap it. Others' hand reaching all over you, but you're really good at hiding your hand. Previously, your hand was reaching all over before their hand came, Now, no matter how much their hand comes, you now do your real self-defense. Because you're not vulnerable what they say. Even if they say something, maybe usually it looks like he said to me. But now he says, who to whom? To me? I didn't find him. Now you don't have this I that is always so erroneously located, so misplaced, so vulnerable. Because you can see the emptiness of the sound. If there is no ear, that is you. I heard with my own ears, they call it. Yes, you said that. Yes, you said that. Yes. You see, we try to make it so real and then punishable. We don't see it as what you heard is probably what you have to make to pay deep attention. If somebody really says something hurtful to you, is it they're saying it deliberately, or when they're saying it is unconsciously? Yeah, they're saying this unconsciously and inadvertently. You're pretty sure that will be correct. In good sense of sanity, people say, I didn't do it knowingly. They were under the sway of anger or some unfortunate circumstances, and they weren't even aware. So, we call yamyu in Tibet. Yamyu means the crowd runs, you run. You don't know why. So don't run with the crowd. Just be the daring to be different. And check what is the cause of the run. So because deluded are many, those who are in that state of luminosity are few, And when you're able to do that, you might be able to save a huge degree of suffering that was otherwise in the making. Because you can unthread the cause of suffering. You quickly saved it. They call quick thinking. In ordinary people's language, they call quick thinking. Maybe very sensible. But if you were to employ this quick thinking luminosity, what it takes to be quick, it doesn't take time if you are in possession of the luminosity. Do you have to put the battery in the torch and like that? As soon as darkness, it should have been already lodged. Everything should be ready to go. So that idea of having battery, everything ready to go, is the meditation. Is the discipline. Is the discipline to meditate, practice, prayer, whatever one try to do, depending to your own habits and karma. And so, when we say, therefore, to nirvana and back, is becoming again and again. This is repeated surprise of the degree of obscurations. And not intimidated by them, but more times you discover your obscuration, but your own obscuration that is not real and independently, obscuration that as soon as you realize it, it's not obscuration. It goes to be part of the buttering, So you know exactly how to now churn the butter. Then your effort of recognition of the obscuration, because obscuration itself, for a beginner, become so hostile. You feel intimidated by the obscuration. You have an animosity towards the obscuration. You wish it was better without it. But as your journey to Nirvana makes gallant effort when it covers ground, it actually is become now more fearless towards the obscuration. Yeah, it sees no obscuration other than one's own inaptitude of it. Okay, there is no obscuration from the obscuration point of view. It's only one's own you're not competing, they say, with anybody, but with your own time that you didn't perform before in 2 minutes. Now you try to perform that in 1 minute and 50 seconds. So you have really no opponent, really. You just have to first be competent that you can repeat what you previously did, and how you can better so much so that this time you might even perform slightly better. And in so doing, one's own recognition of the obscuration, the bar is not the obstacle. Bar is actually a helper to indicate your performance or lack thereof. So when you have this attitude, now you haven't got an obstacle there that independently exists. Yeah, obstacles are bar that you put yourself. If you raise the bar, then you will have to perform a little bit similar to the bar or better, yeah? But if you didn't raise the bar, if you lower the bar, who would lower the bar and then try to jump again? So relatively speaking, you will see sometimes, some people say something is upsetting them. They say, if this is going to happen again, I'm not going to tolerate. But up till now I will, type of thing. So we got a sizable degree of tolerance or kindness towards it. But if it doesn't going to sort of stop there, we're going to be worse than them. So usually people think that their goodness is waiting to attack. How good they can become to attack to finish the opposite, type of thing. The opposite is not people or others. Opposite is one's own inaptitude of not recognizing the obscuration and of its impermanence. The obscurations are themselves impermanent. They are not innate. They are not independently existing. And so it's just question is how you perform. Depending on how you perform, the response is going to come from that. So more familiar we are of our own consciousness, of unconsciousness, yeah. And so we are not going to sort of waste our time. It is him. It is them. Oh, it is him and it's them is obscuration after obscuration. So we still don't know it's obscuration. At least it's obscuration. Since at least stop wasting our time barking at the wrong tree. To bark at any tree is a mistake. Let alone the wrong one. I don't know which is the right tree. So there is this. I'm sure that when I say Nirvana, don't try to think of as a big destination. It's a Nirvana is a kind of sudden peace and forgiveness, sudden ability to let go and pardon yourself or others, and then have the heart and mind and consciousness and dignity to employ that, to unleash that, without any hesitation. Now it might, of course, when you do that, your fitness to be able to do that is merit. Nirvana is not, you can try to go to Nirvana, but can't claim it until you have merit. You have to have leg of merit, with which you shall have the fitness to travel. And so when you're able to do that, then the object of aversion, anger, before previously object was object of anger. We perceive them as whatever. We label them as whatever. Slowly the label seems to be less identical to the label we put them. Oh, actually the name seems to be wrongly tagged. You feel like removing the tag. Removing the tag, And then they're making friend, Maybe they're forgiving the anger, maybe angry father, or anger towards father is now melting. There's a lot of peace. Then you really see the change in your mind and space that it gives, and the worthiness of the kindness that your father or whoever now becomes much more valid object of your compassion. He's frail, he's suffering, he's lonely, whatever it is. Now their pitifulness and their worthiness as an object of compassion and forgiveness manifests like a mountain out of the all phenomena in the world. So then you are now almost like your ill will or anger or resentment towards the object almost like breaks, dismantles before your eyes. This can happen in your meditation. It can happen when you employ your good heart. Yeah. And it can happen at least expected places and spaces. When you employ the attention. You have to have an eye. You have to have an eye to witness the need of that rainfall, the drought of that rain, so awfully long. Only if you could cause a rain of understanding, yeah. One of the stages of the Bhumi they call Dharma clouds. They say if the stream of effort and faith doesn't evaporate, no clouds, no rain. So we have to cultivate this peacemaking. Nirvana is peace, not peace as a passivity. Peace as what we make. Means we drop the opposite of peace, the aggression, the blame, the wrong view, the non-backing mind, the mind that will never back, If you're in Nirvana, means you will back away from that view. If you really like that view, you can have it. You can ask the bank to look after that view for a few days, and you can go and get it. Commonwealth may do that, If you really are so attached to the view, and you really, I'm sure you can get it back. But try without that view for a change, That is what we're talking about, consciousness. Whether you're better with that view or without that view. You see, we are often hurt by our bad views. Nirvana is the right view. It's a view from which you see the pitifulness of the helplessness of the other, who we think is the independently sort of scheming to harm us with their deliberation. We're so certain, as if that's their will and that's the determination. But they have no clue they're doing that. But yet, we are so competent, we're so competent with our delusion that we are right. Nirvana is hesitating with your own afflictions and obscurations, and then learning to pause, learning to stop, See, Nirvana is just small stops. And if things are going so well, you're becoming piece after piece, you don't have to stop. Keep going. Nobody will say, come back, But it's amazing thing about it is Nirvana isn't a place, but it's rather what kind of awareness that you have of your way of viewing some other previous objects of anger or rival or enmity, you now have compassion towards them and forgiving mind towards them, then that is the nirvana we need in every day. And then your daily effort or your discipline, your work, your service, your volunteer work or your paid job or whatever, these are just the conventions that makes you to do this. But every moment is an opportunity to kindle that awareness. No moment is too short if for that awareness to take place. But because the obscurations are almost like incessant, so we are now trying to interrupt the obscurations. And interrupting the frequency of the obscuration, maybe we try to put a spacer between obscurations. Obscuration number 1, obscuration number 2, obscuration number 3. 4 and 5. I couldn't put another one in between. They're just so quick. Look like 4, but they are 4 and 5. You couldn't put a spacer before that. They are so quick, you're a bit slow. But at least you know. But as soon as you say that, maybe the other person is not in a mood to go to nirvana, They really want to pull you back into samsara or whatever. When they do that, you don't feel this resentment. Oh, that's what I used to be in that state. Oh, okay. That's exactly why I used to be now, Then they don't intimidate you. They don't anger you. This is what I mean by nirvana has no harm experience. You don't experience harm. You only get alerted by the harms. All the harms and difficulties alert you more than it injures you. When you're ill-prepared, you are injured, you lost it again, you fell again. Mind you, every step towards nirvana will have many falls. It wouldn't be plain sailing. It will be choppy sailing. It will be very choppy and very difficult ride, So Nirvana has a task to perform. It has to separate the water from the cream. It has to have the butter coming out of the watery milk so separately. You can see, look at this butter, And however small a ball of butter that it is, the effort from which it yielded, then you have now, this butter we are talking about is the fuel of your compassion, which is emptiness. When we don't have the fuel, which is the merit, we don't have the ability to practice wisdom. Our compassion is often fall short. Our generosity is often mean. And so on. Our tolerance is often miscalculated and bad with wrong intention to tolerance practice. For wrong purposes, wrong object we practice tolerance to, but actual place we need to practice tolerance is not available. Lots of tolerance to do other things, recreational activities, but no tolerance just to sit still. So simple, but so hard. So hard, but yet so willing. You see, these are human beings are so unconscious. It's like the water always falls down. It doesn't go up, you see. This is the whole thing. So we are talking about not reversing the water, but we're talking about how to learn to redirect and irrigate the water on a high altitude, even though the water the pipe is down here, and you have to learn the science of altitude, and so on, and whatever mechanism can be employed to direct the water. It's not the lack of the water. It is the ability to direct that. So therefore, wherever you have more apparent sufferings, there the going to Nirvana practice must be employed. Going to Nirvana is actually negotiating with the suffering, understanding the suffering as the truth and fact of life. Not deny, despise, and become aversive to sufferings. That is not Nirvana. With the one who is seeking to go to Nirvana must be willing to expect the sufferings. Even those who have no willingness to go to Nirvana has sufferings. So those who wish to go to Nirvana, of course, has to negotiate the current of the suffering of the ocean. Because they often use the example of Nirvana is reaching the other shore. So other shore means there are a lot of obstacles on the way between you and the boat and the space before you reach the shore. It may look pretty calm water when you start the journey, but in the middle of the sea or wherever, then you may get a bit choppy. So therefore, the suffering mustn't be denied. The suffering must be accepted. This is the two Nirvanas kind of I would say slogan. Suffering must be accepted. And its origin must be apprehended. The origin must be apprehended correctly. We try to apprehend quite many times, but often mistakenly. We bark at the wrong tree. We got it wrong. We got the wrong object. We got the wrong person or wrong thing. And we never got to know the true origin of the sorrow. If the true origin of sorrow is self-grasping, we just grasp selfishness. This is just selfishness. And others say, your desire or your anger, they deliberately spell out to one secondary afflictions. But if you look at the selfishness, it's the primary affliction. We're not even aware it is selfishness. That's ignorance. Ignorance of selfishness, and therefore ignorance of one's own desire or one's own jealousy or one's own low self-esteem or attachment or greed or arrogance. One is ignorant of all of those. When one is ignorant of those, one is not conscious of those. So when one is conscious of those, that's when we are luminosity. You have luminosity, say, it's my pride again, that I cannot look at him or can't greet them or do this to them. It's my pride. As soon as you recognize it's one's own pride, the obscuration is apprehended correctly. As soon as you do that, because you are able to recognize it, you can almost de-escalate the pride. When the pride is de-escalated, then you begin to see the respectability of the other. Their goodness is much more witnessable when your pride isn't creating this obstacle. Then you start seeing the good in the other more willingly. Then you are not ignorant of the obstacle created by arrogance. Then you are now conscious of the wisdom of humility. Now the small nirvanas is where you practice humility. Small nirvanas where you practice letting go, or generosity, or forgiveness. When we don't forgive, we are angry at what they said or what they did or what we allege them as said. Maybe they didn't. We're so vehement in thinking that our view is correct. But the more we think it is, the more correct we are, that much tense and more suffering it creates. So obviously, it hasn't got the facts right. Because if they got the facts right, the suffering will be eliminated as we employ the remedies, supposed remedy. But remedy is actually not remedy. It's actually the cause of the more perpetuation of the problem. See? I mean, if you got a misdiagnosis, you are in trouble. Life is often misdiagnosis, When we consult the highest profession doctors to cure our physical ailments, when they correctly diagnose, now finally they got best treatment. Then we start feeling the effect of the right diagnosis straight away within days, You digest food very well, your body is coping very well, and all of a sudden your body is now responding very well because the prescription is now correct. Now, often we are prescribing a cause of the problem as a remedy of the problem, but both unconsciously. So this innate unconsciousness is called ignorance, avidya. Vidya means knowledge. Avidya means absence of knowledge. And knowledge is light. Knowledge is wisdom. Knowledge is liberating. Knowledge is transcendental. And that's why vidya is knowledge is power, they say. Knowledge is power. Only if it's correct one. And if you have knowledge is correct one, then you know how to employ the correct knowledge without failure. There isn't not many different knowledges that is correct. It just target the self-grasping, just in case the self-grasping, whether self-grasping is an operation or not today. You're always after self-grasping. If you're now after self-grasping, you probably meet him. I knew. He says, you're now good at spotting at me. Now you're good at spotting me. Yes. now the self-grasping itself is not that. Self-grasping itself is not truly existing either. So you mustn't. Self-grasping itself is not that really bad. As long as you have the wisdom recognizes that, then what does self-grasping persist? It will be soon refuted. There is no independently existing self. It is just misrecognized and lumping ourselves with some things or objects or places or things, and we took on the suffering, our attachment to these paraphernalias. And through confusing ourselves with them is, of course, a big mistake. Oh, that's not me. The light says, of course, this time, the light says, it's not me. So as soon as you do that, there's like a delinking of the views, opinions, and uptight feelings, emotions that you became part of. And as you disown it, then the object itself is naturally pardoned. If you pardon one object, you can detour the rest. All the other episodes of sufferings all need to follow the same treatment. So that is the truth of cessation within your reach. You could see the truth of cessation. The cessation meaning the stoppage. Because if the cause of suffering is not incessantly created, if it is intermittently created, the suffering would be intermittent. So you have to consciously make it intermittent. Which is the force that caused the intermission? You have to cause intermission. Intermission meaning that being able to hesitate. Should I go this way? Keep going. Or should I really keep going this way? And you check before you go too far. Because you don't realize you're lost until you really know that you're lost. And which means you found yourself. So as soon as you discover that, of course, it is not him or them or even you. It is these bad constituents, bad constituents, ideas, views, opinions. And when you can sort of take them apart, you don't allow that bad mix to occur. Atom bomb is a bad mix. If you know how to use the atomic energy for good purposes, it's not a bomb, It has a lot of other uses, useful uses. It's only when it goes in the wrong hand, even though they can't even feed their citizens' mouth, but they are putting all these resources to make atom bomb. Those intelligent countries, even though they have the technology, they would not make it. They would not spend all their resources to make an atomic bomb. They rather direct the energies to other sources, like social welfare or whatever it is that the citizens themselves benefit from the real, basics. Those countries who are as a bad mix, bad mix idea that they are insecure for whatever location or whatever political or religious persuasion they have, and they have to have an atom bomb. Not because they can't afford, but they are making it. You see, the ego grasping is, nobody's going to want your dry, arid land. You can't even feed your own people. Who want to come to get your people to feed more people? But yet people are so protective of their land. Over a little island, they're fighting for it, as if that's going to sort of make or break who is more powerful, who has more truth or whatever. If you look at the collective kind of ego of a nation, we're talking about ego of an individual. That's bad enough. Bad enough for the individual. When that becomes the leader of just as many egotistical mind, of course you can create catastrophe in no time. Quite a lot of the rogue nations always on war footing. They're always threatening the neighbors or whoever. That's all they can do. So, and only thing they have is they have this dangerous destructive weapon that they have just disadvantaged all of their citizens, and they use all of this to threaten their own neighbors. And what they're going to get from? They're going to destroy the neighbor like them. And isn't this ignorance? This is what we call massive ignorance. When we kind of bring down to our individual level, this is very important, because nirvana has to be individual. If you can make your own individual space, absence of I would say strong negativities or just afflictive emotions or bad reactions or whatever, if you can create intermission with them, and then you have a break from that for a while, and then so you realize how much peace there is in the countries that are not on the war footing. You can see the people really enjoy the few days a week or few days a month or whatever. They really have time to relax and be there for each other. But others do not. They just almost like they think the end of the life they will enjoy, but not during this week or not this month or not this year. They are almost like hoarding or trying to make a lot of profit until there's no end. So nirvana is really try to make it daily, try to make periodically, every time, try to pause and try to go to the basics of your good heart and your luminosity, your light in you. They say, let there be light. What does it mean? It means to dispel the darkness of sorrow or sadness, or me, poor my this, poor my that. All those dark thoughts has to be purged. They have to be blown away. Nirvana actually means to blow out. You have to blow out those thoughts. It's a thought problem. Nirvana is just a shift of a thought. It's not of a big distance to cover. And if you have small kind of incremental nirvanas, and say within a day or within a couple of hours, no matter however many kind of nature of samsara, like a torrent of samsara, washes over your face, but they will not dent you. They're just part of being in the ocean. That at least you are in the boat to rescue others. Others are drowned in the very ocean, and their chances of getting out safety from the ocean is very slim. And so, because of that, a person who has this when to Nirvana back, meaning that empowers you to come back, is the great compassion. This great compassion is not ordinary compassion. Compassion with the wisdom discerning emptiness. So what makes you come? Due to greatness of wisdom, yeah, you didn't abide in Nirvana. Yeah? Due to the greatness of compassion, yeah, you didn't leave samsara. Why? Because sentient beings are in samsara. So how could you possibly go to Nirvana and forget them? So therefore, these are two greatness. When we say back to Nirvana and back is, first we have to go to Nirvana due to the greatness of the wisdom. Yeah. But as soon as you know the greatness of wisdom is have understanding of emptiness, then only your compassion will liberate each other. Otherwise, your compassion will trap you both more kind of hardened way than before. Most people's is not lack of compassion. Their compassion is lack of great wisdom. So therefore, because of lack of wisdom, even their time and energy, mother's complete sacrifice, or whatever you do to people or to the world or to the community, you did so much, but you're constantly resenting. That is, you have great compassion, but you fall short of wisdom. Because of that, it is now almost hurting yourself. With the greatness of wisdom, there is no self that will get hurt, that will get worried by dispensing great act of compassion. Your compassion is not fatiguer anymore. Previously, compassion fatigues you, and your compassion is now depleted by the very act. Why? Because it lacked wisdom of discerning emptiness. Even your act dispensing of compassion is not independently your dispensing of compassion. Your generosity is not because you're generous, because someone is humble enough to receive your generosity. So your generosity is not independently truly existing, is it? See, that's the great wisdom. When you have that, you have no attachment to the thing you give, who you give. And you have no reward-seeking mind. Therefore, no attachment. No attachment to your act of compassion or to whom you practice compassion to. Because of that, the greatness of compassion is balanced by greatness of wisdom. And so it has awareness. Your act of doing goodness to others is not so much you're helping them, that they're helping you. Just as much as we think we are helping, Now, our mind has to have great spacious clarity to have the readiness to think like that, isn't it? Because often we think, I've been helping him, but this is what he does to me. It's almost like we've been helping, but we're just starting to sort of feel like not doing anymore type of thing. But the one who really has the greatness of the having come back from Nirvana is, he has great wisdom not to think like that. It's actually them who are helping me. You see, whether it's a generosity, whether it's tolerance, or whatever, they do the hard job. They are the instigators. If they don't instigate, we can't practice generosity. They don't instigate, we can't practice any of the virtues. Because of that, they are the benefactors. Without them, we could not single-handedly. We cannot clap with our hand. Did you? Well, try. Tell us, when did you clap? We didn't see it. We can't hear it. Because it needs another hand. So therefore you will never be depleted. Next time, due to the greatness of compassion, greatness of wisdom, you have come back from Nirvana, back to samsara, where you previously practiced all this generosity, but all mutually destructive generosities. And why you have come back? To fix all the mistakes. Fix all the mistakes. So that this time you don't think they are helping, you are helping them. But you are thinking, they are helping me they are giving me great help so that I can make just small, tiny help. So, because of that, your compassion is not depletable. Why? Because the suffering of sentient beings are not depleting. How could your compassion can be depleted? Compassion is a response to suffering. It's not a virtue on its own in the middle of the sky. It's not the kind of flower that grows in the sky. Compassion is the kind of flower that grows in mud, but unsoiled by it. So therefore, why back from nirvana? Because the flower beautifies where it grows, where there's no flowers. The very environment is benefited. So your act of compassion, where there are very many people who practice generosity, but very few who practice generosity with great wisdom. Why? Because most are practicing generosity to get to nirvana. And it's long. Nirvana is very long because they don't have a way to create intermission in the giving and then see why I was giving. What did I give it for? Was that right attitude? Was that right way of giving? Or was it a waste of the thing that I gave? Oh yeah, that is. That is the nirvana that you can realize within the giving. Oh, all of a sudden you gave with the wrong intention, or wrong thing, or wrong person, or wrong place, or whatever it is. But when you cultivate the armored kind of good intention with which you really conceive the bodhicitta, altruism, very well, because greatness of compassion means now you have to conceive the altruism before you dispense any act of generosity. Even generosity, even tolerance, however many people practice, but they lacked the altruistic intention. They were filled with the self-grasping intention. All that was given but back-breaking self-grasping intention. The self-grasping intention as a motivation to give is toxic. So might as well not give to anybody because it's going to spoil and poison anyone who receives it. So therefore, that's what we've been doing in the past. No wonder why we have to come back to not repeat that anymore and try to have this exactly being in the shoes of the other. Straight away, I think I'm giving them, I'm helping them, but what if I wear their shoes and then look what I'm doing? And then straight away you have a completely different perspective. And then it will pacify your neurosis. That is nirvana. Nirvana means it pacifies your sorrow. And when your sorrow is not increasing but decreasing, then your own fitness and meritoriousness, blissfulness, and your love or your joy in servicing and doing with others is undiminishingly there. Otherwise, very mean, very calculated, time and effort is so mean. But there is no need to be thinking whose is what I'm giving, because everything what we have was never ours. It also came from others. So why we have to have a feeling it's mine, I'm giving to you? It seems so stupid because everything, even our body is a gift of our parents. Everything else that the body possesses is also came from others. To think that is mine, you see, again the same poison is there, self-grasping. So we have to therefore look. When I thought about this talk, is about how people should revisit their day within the day a few times and review, and before going on. Not that not that you can't keep on going, but it's good to review and check whether the intention, altruism, compassion, forgiveness, understanding, and all this humility, all the selfless kind of mentality motivated energies are much more in currency or not. And the more frequent checking that we do to ourselves means there is a less burning of self fire. There is less self-burning inside us. There's more there's more passion for allaying suffering of others. Now, previously burning for self, for me. What's in it for me? But now it's almost like passion is directed. What can I do? What can I be to the people whose shoes I have been? What can I do to help them? Because now I know exactly what they are like to be them in their shoes. Because we only have this view from one point of view. But when you are in a nirvanic selfless, nirvana means selfless in this case, conduct-wise selfless. And view was emptiness. And discipline means cautious. And because of that, hesitant. There's a lot of doubt. The act of restraint, I suppose. Act of restraint, not so much doing, but checking whether the intent or whether because the suffering that we need to pacify is caused by self-grasping. Whether the self-grasping is a center stage or not, or selflessness and altruism is starting to gain momentum. So checking that, pausing and checking. Even within few hours, everything's like going very well. Maybe a couple of hours was really full on. You couldn't believe, you thought it was all them, of course. How did I get into this kind of people around me, type of thing? Of course, if one wasn't around this kind of people, it would be fine, But just these, where do I get these people? There's not a clue. It might be me. Might be this selfishness still operating under another disguise. It's often very, very difficult to detect this one. This is called unrecognizable. Unrecognizable, because that's why we are not aware of it. It's the thief inside you. That's the whole thing. It's not the thief that from outside have to get inside you. It's been there for a long time. It's really been. It's almost like we can call the demon. We call demon Mara. Mara within. This is the demon within that we have not apprehended. But the moment you apprehend it, I'm sure your senses will go sharp. Your eyes, your ears, your whole senses become very sharp. Now you hear not what people say, but what they intend to say, but doesn't quite come out what they intend to say. Wow. Then you can hear differently, don't you? That's what he really intended to say, but he was under the sway of anger or stress or whatever. He didn't get to say that the way he intended. And would it be heard properly? No. Well, majority of people didn't hear the intended. They heard the unintended on top of their own. On top of their own spice, because people add their own spice, don't they? On top of the spice of the other people, they say they add their own little spice and then become inedible. So nirvana is that kind of incessant doubt, benefit of doubt or rational mind, always scrutinizing. Even you're feeling good that you did something good, it's you don't sort of let that go past, say, oh, you look so competent, what's that? You look so competent, that was your bodhicitta and selflessness, wasn't it? Yeah. Straight away, nearly it also sneaked away, You thought it was all you, didn't you? No. It wasn't the other people playing the different roles. You could have not done the thing yourself. And so why is the puffy feeling you are getting from? Oh, you didn't realize that it is the interdependent origination of all the things, It's very good. Even if you're having a good day, it doesn't mean that it should be just long half-day nirvana. As soon as you think you get nirvana, quickly you got to come back. You don't overstay in nirvana, And that's why the Mahayana really usually sort of almost warns, don't stay with intention to stay in nirvana. They say, don't go to nirvana with intention to stay there. They say, go to nirvana with intention to come quickly back so that you remember us who are languishing without the benefit of your maybe fitness, your compassion, your mother, your father, your brother, others. They can only be rescued by likes of you because you have strong karmic affinity, commitment, responsibility. So how could you possibly go to nirvana and not think of coming back? So there's a deep meditation practices without altruism can lead to that nirvana for self alone. And it's considered to be a taboo in Mahayana Buddhism to seek reaching nirvana for oneself. And of course, there's not a lot of great likelihood that we will do that, but just in case that you do hit the jackpot, you realize, gosh, I've made it. But then, so what? Everybody's left behind, and you made no provision to go back. You haven't got a return ticket, have you? That's the problem. So this altruism is a return ticket, that you don't go to nirvana just because it's so pleasant that nobody can harm you, and there's seems to be no sickness, no disease, no birth, no old age, none of these. I mean, how would you get there? Do you take this very body? Are this body permitted with the current passport or what? Do any kind of body is allowed in the nirvana? Supposedly no, because nirvana is cessation of self. So if cessation of self is who reaches there? So what's the point of reaching no self in the no thing? You better have some use in where there's a lot of some things. So because of that, some of the deities are stretching one leg out, one leg bending inwards. So that is meaning that their readiness to go and help sentient beings come. They're not going to retire, rest. But they're not tainted, caught submerged within the samsara in which they come, in which they continue to remain. So what it does, what can we really sum from this is, the idea was how to make small nirvanas. Nirvana means peaceful resolutions each day. How do you resolve some things more peacefully, more wisely, more graciously, more forgivingly, more non-attachmently, and so you let go. Quickly, the you and your object or people or things will pose no threat to you, because lots of people are threatened. They're afraid of. They are afraid of everything. And they don't realize it's a larger projection of their own insecurity, their own wrongdoings that they didn't address, and they're always followed by that very thing because they're pulling the cart. The ox that pulls the cart is followed by the cart that in which the luggage is in there. So why the fear? The fear comes from self-grasping, or fear of even death. Fear of loneliness, or fear of being not liked or rejected. All these things comes from this self-grasping. So we have to try to minimize, try to create less opportunity to feel self-centeredness, but rather feel I'm grateful for everything I have. If you think like that, you don't feel you didn't get anything. You just think of the half a dozen or so people who are there for you when you need help. Just think of them. You don't feel lonely. And you have to learn how to stop this deluded kind of behavior, attitudes rather, and the thoughts and conversations, and the kind of interaction that our mind and body has. And when one is able to confront them and try to stop their currency, try to cancel their frequency, try to replace them with certain thoughts or perceptions or feelings, so maybe feeling of enmity is then remedied by loving kindness. Yeah? Then there's peace. There's no enmity there. When there's no enmity, there's no fear. When there's no fear, there's a lot of courage and confidence. And so therefore the whole idea of reducing fear, reducing loneliness, decreasing, all of those comes from how fit we are to have the currency of a thought which allow us to practice luminosity, because greatest cause of luminosity is selflessness. Luminosity is not kind of Zen kind of view. You just got to anchor your mind in the sky and there you go type of thing. It's selflessness we practice. Then it will just lift us up from the darkness. When you practice selflessness, it makes our mind very luminous. They call enlightenment thought. Because the very intent of altruism enlightens you, and it just completely loses the weight of selfish grasping. And then you see the goodness of others and deserving of them, of your kindness and your tolerance. Because of that, it's not a sacrifice of you to them. It's an honor. It's a pleasure. We have chosen recreational object or activities to which when we invest our energy, yes, it's a pleasure. But in other areas, we are divesting the energy. We need to invest more into altruism. Then it is nirvanic, basically. Nirvanic means it blows out the burning suffering caused by selfishness. It's like curing the wound, If the wound is not treated where the wound is, the rest of the body will be infected slowly. So where the wound is, where the wound is, there the ointment, there the band-aid or whatever needs to be applied. One needs to recognize the wound. The real wound is caused by selfishness. And if the very ointment, which is selflessness, not because you practice selflessness, thinking you don't ignore yourself and do for others, you forget last, and then in the end you realize nobody looked after you, and then you realize, oh gosh, this is ridiculous, I always leave myself behind. Not that kind of selflessness. Lots of people do this kind of selflessness. Yeah, then they definitely neglected themselves. Altruism is not selflessness which ignores oneself. Altruism is selflessness which includes oneself with the pleasure of being the servant or companion or whatever what one does. Not thinking that you are doing, I'm working for others type of thing. As if it was your own. And so this idea of neglecting, because there's almost like, I think there is because human beings, like in this particular century, live in the most civilized era, and most educated, literate, most well-informed era than ever before. So because of that, people actually are doing more selfless. So much selfless things, they forgot themselves. That's not bodhicitta, Bodhicitta includes self, In the end, we might have to get rid of all the self, but in the meantime, you will need to include that, I and all sentient beings we call. Even in the refuge, we don't say all sentient beings beside me. We don't say that. It's not a bad. It's not a kind of. I is not a kind of a taboo. I is a wrong view of I is a taboo, but a correct view of I is not taboo. Correct view. I is the bodhisattva. Is the courageous one. How can you be courageous if you ignore yourself? You got to be the leader. You got to be the performer. You got to make a difference. How could you ignore yourself? You see, there's that kind of feeling that you have to be the martyr, that you could die for the kingdom or whatever. In the meantime, you achieve very little, just a name or honor. But in reality, there wasn't anything. So therefore, when we say going to Nirvana and back, means that who comes back he's fitter than he left. When he was going to Nirvana, he was limping. He was losing his shoes. and once in Nirvana, he's got a brand new shoes. He's got new feet, and so on. And now he's not going to be sabotaged by himself, or even other people sabotaging. Doesn't allow himself to be so vulnerable and offendable. Why? He's not grasping in a naive way, as in the past. So therefore, merit is necessary, isn't it? Merit, practice of good conduct. When you do good things, when you allow certain hours in your daily life to do good deeds. Oh, what was it that 3 hours I did this morning? What is it that I could have done today that are wholesome? That are wholesome meaning beneficial, means selfless, means beneficial for others and pleasurable for you. The people who are lonely and depressed are those who are not doing anything good with themselves to others. And then they have reason to feel useless or depressed because they're not going to Nirvana. They have no intention to. They're just complaining about samsara. And they're just going to the civic samsara office. Always complaining why life is like this, why life is like that, why life is like that. Without accepting that is the life. That is the nature of life. So because of this, the practice of luminosity is with the wisdom discerning emptiness of all phenomena, not just self, as independently existing, and then feeling pitiful and sad, and by knowing majority of beings do not have access to this knowing. Because of this, they are mutually causing sufferings to each other, and neither are taking responsibility. And therefore, how can I quickly go and try to make a little difference even to one sentient being? With that attitude, then of course one needs to do your daily prayer and meditation to top up your merit, to top up your fuel, if you like. If you don't have fuel, you can't keep going. So therefore, even in the work hours, people's hours, they work on only 8 hours or less a day. Like 40 hours or 38 hours. The rest of the hours they're meant to do something else, to recreate, to fitness, to exercise, whatever. So likewise, even as a practitioner try to perform duties of serving and helping other beings, but we need to retreat from them and take our private time in our prayer and meditation to recharge. To recharge. You have to have good rechargers. Some are hopeless rechargers. Good rechargers, good practices, good practices that it really, you do a good session of practice. It really prepares you for the day. Or at the end of the time, or day or whatever, when you do the practice, everything is processed by the practice. You don't have the huge burden of the day or the week or whatever, pushing you down anymore. You just made peace with that darkness, of that load, that weight, or that kind of intensity. You just have the right view with which you look at it, and then the thing isn't same as you saw then. Because now you have a eye that can see things, not quite what it appears as real, but what appears as not really real. What it appears is conjured up by our own neuroses. And therefore, fact and fictions are separable. You can clearly see most of the time we are believing fictions as a fact and not getting the fact. So therefore, perception and perceived are non-identical. Not identical. So illusion. So the perceptions are illusion. Even our own opinions. And so therefore we do not become fundamentalists with our perception and views and opinions, believe in what happened in the past, and just have a benefit of doubt. Maybe that didn't happen the way it is. Maybe my selfishness was pretty strong even then. Maybe that has contributed to the degree of this problem. I never factored that one. So when you factor that one in, it pretty much takes care of lots of the problem. And by the time you subtract that from the problem, then how much of the problem is now that big? It's not that big, And then now the object towards whom you blamed and you're resenting, you're angry, you think it's them. Wow. Now you just blink your eyes, it's not the case, It isn't the case what I perceived. See, it is illusion, remember? Now you don't say it's illusion. You just look carefully from another point of view, just another angle, and it's not identical perception. And so, sometimes borrow other people's perception. Can you see any other perception? I don't like this perception. Can you have a 3D glass? Can you have some other kind of glass that can see something different than I'm seeing? I just can't handle this. Yeah, you're wearing the wrong glass. Always wearing very tinted glass. This is the problem. Tainted by ignorance, tainted by pride and prejudices and despair and poor me and all these kind of things. It just completely takes away the good fact is completely missed because of these things. Just completely wipes off our fitness to see things. Buddha is Kosir. And we're supposed to be seeing things too, but we are not seeing much. So the Nirvana is the great seeing. It's the great seeing that makes you peaceful, because the sorrow is just a really, the sorrow is just a bad constituent of seeing. It's a bad visual perception. And mental perception didn't help it. It was profoundly deluded. So your eyes are pretty good, pretty reliable, but the mental perception completely tainted the whole bad constituent. So you couldn't see the thing very clearly. Optical illusion. Yes. So when you do that, is it my perception? Is it what it actually is in the object? When you ask this simple question, there will be the lumina, there will be twinkle. They will say, why did I have this perception? Which of the affliction got in me without my perception, without my awareness? They have a tendency to not ask my permission. Did you do that again? And then jealousy says, yes. Anger says, yes. Desire says, of course. Ignorance says, don't you realize? So all the afflictions sort of becomes recognizable. Sort of, they usually perform those duties. What do they call? Destructive emotions. They cause self-sabotaging. And when these things becomes resident in your body, then the constituent, we call fluid in the body, the chemistry in the body becomes so much dense and toxic. And because of that, it becomes physical illnesses. The sickness we were talking about. But those who practice Nirvanic kind of view, even the physical illness symptoms are decreasing through meditation, through right view, through altruism. They say with altruism, you could cure illnesses. You can stop the spread of disease. You can prevent them from escalating, and with a good heart, prayer and the meditation or whatever goes to cushion these. When you cultivate good heart and then your heart is big enough to accommodate the well-being of not ourselves only, but also that of others, then there isn't this us against them kind of a war, but there is both has a common war against this absence of knowing. And so this thinking, this active thinking, very, very what we can call metacognitive level of thinking, that you actually try to increase your magnitude of your thinking mind, how clear your mind is to think and discern and reason, and then you can increase the resolution of your thinking. And then you can see how many ratio of them are delusion, how many ratio is immediate kind of a provocation, and so on. So by the time you sieve them and separate them, there isn't anything that is truly there that is a real problem, The constituents are all factored in, and when you see the aggregates, which means composites, everything is a composite in Buddhism. Everything is composite, meaning it is comprised of many things that is conveniently labeled as one, but itself is not independently that. It has many components that are not even mentioned. In the small print, yes, it is mentioned, but in the big print, it's got a big print, just, one major substance. In the small print, there are a lot of small ingredients. That actually makes much of the issue. You have no idea how those factors, they have contributed to the very contents of the medicine or food or whatever it is. So that's very important to know. Likewise, the thinking constituents. What did I think with angrily? When he said this, is it I responded with because I was a little upset over the issue, therefore how much of that has inflated the issue? As soon as you know that, then you're not going to see much of the problem coming from the outside, did you? You say, how much was flared up by my own kind of situation that I was in? Wow, that is a constituent I can disallow. If I disallow this constituent and this factor, it wouldn't reach to this volume of the problem. So you basically know how to deconstruct the thoughts, emotions that are destructive can be sidelined, or discouraged or retreated. But thoughts and emotions that are very intelligent, very liberative, and very reasonable and rational and very sensible, you try to bring them more into prominence. And when you do that, there's a lot of psychology of what it calls peace. Now there's psychology of peace here. Peace is not something independent itself. It also is made up of a number of constituents. Number of factors must be brought in. Peace isn't just our weakness that is peace. Peace is that when someone or something challenges us, that in face of that, then we have to practice tolerance. Not because we are weak, but because we know one of the two have to give the peace a chance. And often we weren't willing to be the first, that one. It can be anybody but not me this time. My chance will come one day. Almost like it's too rare to be true, But yeah, we believe in peace, but in the meantime, I'm not going to do it. When we give not only peace, we actually do the peaceful thing. Say sorry. I apologize. Even if it's not entirely your mistake. But as soon as you said, I'm sorry, straight away it takes a lot of pressure off the other person, because that's your intention has to be that, not to prove yourself right. The purpose of that is maybe it will help them if I took some blame on. And that is altruism. Altruism is not about looking good and clean on the surface. It's willing to wear some blames. Because the blames are not independent of yours anyway, because they have to do the blaming first, So they've done the hard work already, so you might have said, okay, it's all my fault. Then their misery stopped. Their misery stopped as soon as you did. Of course, that's the purpose. Purpose is that, if you accept it, that gives them, make them happy. Oh, they're happy that you accept it. Oh, thank goodness, it's that easy. Gosh, why we have to be so complicated? Just do that. But to do that, you have to have the simple clarity of mind. And when we're so complicated, we become so rigid. We go, no, I won't do it now. Not today, not at this issue. So, sort of not quite willing to. But when you give a chance, it's amazing. Nirvana means almost like problem-free. The problem was solved. Wow, thank goodness. Here came a problem solver for a change. Otherwise, everybody's making it more worse. That's not nirvana. That's called vicious cycle, perpetuation. Samsara means perpetuation. Nirvana means it's just stopping the perpetuation. It breaks the axle of the perpetuation. Greed, ignorance, hatred, and so on. When one recognizes them, and if one apologizes that, straight away it gives them a peaceful, at least this person is willing to say, I'm sorry, apologize. Then they say, oh gosh, then it's my turn type of thing, It almost morally makes them feel responsible. Pretty much straight away without asking, they will apologize back. Even if they don't. It's even better for you, don't you? Because if you have the merit, you have a meritorious apology that you did it, and your apology would have made a lot of humility in you. Your humility will reduce threat that may be posed by you to them. Yeah, it's good. If they don't feel threatened by you, that's already peace. And they don't feel threatened by you. Why? Because you do not have enmity. When you don't have enmity, because enmity is a hostility that oneself is invoking unconsciously. One itself is causing the hostility to make it happen because of one's enmity. A person with enmity doesn't sleep well, they say, because he doesn't need others to come and cause suffering. He's able to do it all. He's a one-man band. He can cause all his misery on his own in his bed. So hostility is invoking enmity is invoking hostility from without and within. And loving kindness, which is the remedy for that, because remedy is nirvanic, if it remedies the problem. If you see, this is mutually destructive, this God take us nowhere, when you practice that. And so, in every day, this kind of constructive, intelligent emotion needs to be retrieved, and destructive, negative emotion should be apprehended and tagged and targeted. And such fitness to be able to do that in your everyday life wouldn't manifest unless your mind is recruited daily through your daily prayers and meditations. And that's why the practice of meditation. So, of course, going to Nirvana and back means it's very lofty idea of not going to stay in nirvanic state and come back to samsara, the very bodhisattvic ideal. And it has to be the case, because otherwise the whole aim is everybody heading to eternal nirvana. There's no eternal nirvana is never mentioned. It is taboo in Maya and Buddhism. So the emanation, what we call nirvana kayas, or emanations of the Buddhas, are now manifesting because they have made vow not to claim nirvana for themselves, but quickly come back in whatever multifarious ways they could best serve and benefit sentient beings. So, we have to back to our normal ways, but try to have a little bit more luminous, lucid, self-confronting, as if you are always seeing the other not as other, but mirror ourselves. Then we have an idea of luminosity. We are not aware that what we see is what we're thinking. If we are aware that what we see is what we're thinking, we can change the thinking. Then what you're seeing could change in no time. And such luminosity, they say that knowing object as thought, and the thought as illusion, and illusion as interdependent. So we are not trying to cop out being illusion, being nothing, not like that. Even illusion needs causes and conditions. Illusionists, his paraphernalia, his tricks, and a naive audience. Without that, there is no illusion. So even illusion is not emptiness. Illusion is, it needs all these causes and conditions. And that which is illusion and interdependently interdependently produced are inexpressible. And that's just smile. Maybe you can just smile. Another one of these, no need mentioning. Oh, it's about here. So you just keep grinning again. So that nirvanic person is that you cannot be dampened by samsara sorrow. But you have this compassion towards sentient beings, but compassion to interfacing incessant sufferings of others could be quite depressive. But if you don't have the grinning mind that sees the emptiness of suffering, you could be so overwhelmed by sufferings. Yeah, some people get so overwhelmed by suffering because they see the suffering is so real. They don't see the emptiness of sufferings. It doesn't mean that you pack up and go, but the suffering is mainly created by the bad constituents of the thoughts. But suffering itself is constantly impermanent, and suffering itself is a great teacher of compassion. So don't be too aggressive and aversive to this suffering, because suffering is that which causes our need to come back from nirvana more useful. So therefore, if you really have gone to nirvana and come back for the purpose of being with the sentient being, don't complain. Compliment. So, thank you for your being here to hear all of these things. That's the compliment. Thank you.